into some more creative ways of actually using Edpuzzle. So that's why the session today is called Edpuzzle Dive Deeper. And we'll explore some strategies and some ways to use Edpuzzle with different approaches during our lessons. So once again, yesterday we were focusing more on the technical part and looking at how we can put our videos together and how we can add questions and so on and so forth. Today we'll actually explore certain pedagogical approaches when it comes to using videos, and of course, when it comes to using Edpuzzle as well. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, please come forward with the questions. You can type them in the chat, or you can just unmute yourselves and ask the questions, or raise your hand, or just make sure that if you have any questions, you come forward with them so we can clarify and everything. And we'll also have a Q&A session at the end. So if you want to have to leave something for the end and we'll have a longer time for questions, then that's also okay. So just a quick intro. My name is Bogdan. I am a Google for Education certified trainer and an ISTE trainer. And I am also doing training sessions for Edpuzzle. So you do have my contacts. We will also send you the follow-up email after the sessions with some follow-up materials. So if you have questions, you can always get in touch. So let's dive right in, and let's talk a bit about how we can actually use videos in the classroom, because there are different ways to actually use videos, from creating videos and sending them to our students as material that they have to have a look at before a lesson, or we could use videos during the lessons to present certain materials, or we could even ask our students to create their own videos, or we could ask teachers to start creating videos for our students. And actually, students working on their own videos is also one way in which they can not only show mastery of the skills you are teaching them, but also they can develop other skills like time management and working in a team and so on and so forth. So one big issue with using the video is, especially when you send videos to your students and you ask them to watch the videos at home, or you ask them to watch the videos when they are working on their task during the lesson, is that you don't really know if the students have watched the video. You don't know if they understood what content was in the video. And it's a bit tricky sometimes to answer all their questions if they're watching the videos at home. So this is where Edpuzzle comes in and sort of changes things, because rather than sending them just the video, now you actually can add questions on top of the video. And then you can use Edpuzzle to track your students' progress, and also to see their answers and see how well they did on the questions you've added on the video. So this is just a quick intro for Edpuzzle. We did have a whole session yesterday on how to create the videos and whatnot. We'll have some quick demos today as well, and we'll go through the same process, but we'll go with a bit faster, so we can focus on the whole idea of pedagogy and different strategies for using the videos. Now, what are some of the advantages for using Edpuzzle? You can think about it as having a digital co-teacher, because you could actually assign different content and material in video format to your students, and students can watch that content on their own at their own pace. So if you assign it, let's say, as homework before you actually start the lesson, they will be able to consume that content, and then during the lesson you'll have more time for other activities. You can keep students accountable. You do have secure videos, and especially the ones on the Edpuzzle platform, the ones that are Edpuzzle hosted, have no ads. So this is where the power of the community comes in handy, because there are lots of videos on the platform that are created by educators from all over the world. And of course, the real-time analytics, as I said, gives you quite a lot of information about your students' progress and where they are. Now, let's have a look at the just a few ideas and bits and pieces that you can actually use together with Edpuzzle. So as I said earlier, you can use any video from YouTube or from the Edpuzzle hosted collection of videos, or you could create your own videos. in the case of creating your own videos, this is where Edpuzzle also helps you, because with the help of the extension, you can actually record your screen straight away and then upload the video to Edpuzzle directly. So if you want to have, for example, a slideshow or a presentation, or you have some sort of simulation or something like that, you could just record your screen while you're going through the material, and then you upload it to Edpuzzle directly and can send it to the students. And that allows you to actually personalize the lesson in many different ways. Now, today we'll also have a look at the live mode, and we'll see exactly how that works and we'll try to understand how this actually works for us as teachers and for our students. Now, let's dive right in and let's see how we could actually use Edpuzzle and what types of strategies could we use here, right? So the very first strategy, or the very first pedagogical approach to using videos in general, but of course Edpuzzle makes this whole process a bit easier, is called the flipped classroom. And the idea here is that rather than you starting to teach a new concept or the new content during the lesson or during the virtual meetings like on Zoom or on Meet or whatever other platform you might be using, actually you introduce the new content before the lesson. So you send videos for your students to watch at home. And then when you meet for the lesson or when you meet for the live session, you focus on actually applying those concepts. You focus on clarifying their questions or misconceptions and giving them more input where they need it. So then you can actually use the class time or the lesson time for deeper learning or higher learning activities rather than just you introducing the content. So this is the idea behind the flipped classroom. And as I said, it's a strategy that can be used with videos in general, but Edpuzzle does make the whole process a bit better, simply because you can actually add all of those questions and you can see how much of the video the students watched, and you have all of the data that you collect. So for example, how would this look like? We'll give you some examples for different lessons. So in this case, let's say for an English language and arts lesson, right? So at home, students complete a video on characterization. So you give them the content, you introduce the idea for characterization, you explain how that is done and what it means and how they could do it. And then during the lesson, rather than you presenting this, students will already have watched the video, and then you can spend a bit of time at the beginning to answer their questions, and then they can work on analyzing a character from a picture book, for example. Or if you want to bring them into a group, a small group, you could have students create different characters, and you could have them create the characters in groups or in pairs. So this is where, given that we've introduced the concept at home, so earlier, we will have more time in class for the higher learning activities or for the deeper learning parts. Now, this is where we were talking about the flipped classroom, which is the classical approach to flipped learning, right? So you send the videos at home, students watch them as homework or as assignments, or they watch them in between the lessons. And then during the contact time, you focus on the other parts. There's also a second approach, which is the in-class flip. So here is where, rather than having students watch the videos at home, they watch it or they complete the video lesson at the beginning of the class. So you start the class by assigning the video in Edpuzzle. They actually watch the video either at their own pace, or you could use live mode, which I will show you in a bit how it works. This is where, once you're done with this part, the introductory part of the lesson, you gather all the data from the video and you know on the spot what parts you need to focus on. This is one of the big advantages for the in-class flip approach, because before, if you would just teach something, yes, okay, we can ask some questions and we can get an idea of where students are and how much they understood from the content. But with the Edpuzzle data that's collected from the videos, if we have the right questions on our videos, we know immediately if we need to spend more time clarifying some bits and pieces, or if we can move forwards with the rest of the lesson plan. So this is where we can also use that data, for example, for grouping. So let's say you want to split the group into smaller groups and they want to work on different tasks. You could have a look at the data and see those students that need more support. You can put them in one group and you can work with them and offer them that support, whereas the others can work on some of the other tasks, some of the more advanced tasks. So this is where, once again, the data we get from Edpuzzle can be very useful for all kinds of activities. So one example here for a science lesson this time, right? So we try to mix the examples. So let's say you're teaching about the water cycle and you introduce the content or you introduce the topic with a video lesson in Edpuzzle. Students watch it at the beginning of the class. Then you have a look at the data. You see if you need to clarify something, then you ask them to work on, let's say, a diagram or an illustration showing the water cycle or a poster, right? Something like that, which helps them reinforce that new ideas and understand them better and just make those connections between the old content they knew already and the new one. And then you could have at the end a sort of a gallery walk where everybody shows their work and their diagrams and their posters and their illustrations, and they can present them. So once again, we have the classical flipped classroom and the in-class flip. In both cases, this is really easy to do with Edpuzzle. So just in case somebody was not here yesterday and just in case there's somebody new in the audience that hasn't used Edpuzzle, I'll quickly show you how easy it is to assign a video. Because we were using the water cycle as an example, let me just find a video related to the water cycle. So this is Edpuzzle. I can search for videos based on different topics I'm teaching or I need for my videos. I can get the videos from the community, which already have questions added by other educators, or I could create videos from scratch and start from a YouTube video, for example. So in this case, let me have a look at the community, simply because I want to show you how easy it is to actually assign a video rather than going to the whole demo of how you can create the video. But this is very easy to do. So let's say I'm choosing this video. Of course, I would have a look at it. I would see if it's the video that I need. I would make sure that the questions are the questions that I need, and so on and so forth. So as you see, it already has some questions attached to the video. These were questions added by other educators. And if I'm happy with the questions, I can actually just use the video for my own lessons as well. So what would I do next? I can actually edit the video and I can create my own version for it. So this is where this is what I was showing yesterday. So we have the option to cut the video. And when it comes to the questions, we already have some questions here, as I said, but we can actually also move them around. So when we edit the video, even if some other teachers created the videos and shared them with the community, you can still edit them. So if you want to move the question, just drag it here, let's say, and we can actually just rearrange things. And of course, we can add other questions as well. So let's say I would want to add one more question here. I can easily just add it and have that extra question, which I added as well. So let's say, what's the formula for water? And I will use the possible answers. So H2O, and let's say we have also H2O2. And this is where, once again, I can also choose the correct answer, and that's it. So I'll save it and I will assign it. Once again, this is just a quick reminder of how easy it is to actually send a video to your students. So I'll finish the video and I can actually assign it now. So this is my version of the video. I've added that extra question. I can now assign it. And when I assign the videos, I can actually push them through Google Classroom as well, or Microsoft Teams, or any of the other learning management system integrations. Or I can also, of course, share it via Edpuzzle directly. I will post it to Classroom directly so students get access to it. And remember, you can also have a due date. So let's say I'll have it as due date for Friday. And that's it. So it took me less than 5 minutes to actually have a video, send it to my students, and add my questions. Of course, as I said, you can also start from a video from scratch. So now if I go to my classroom, I will actually see the video that was shared directly in classroom from Edpuzzle. So here we have Edpuzzle water cycle, all good. Students can actually start working on the video. So it's that easy. And once again, now we'll also have a look at some of the other ways of actually using Edpuzzle when we talk about different other strategies. So let me know if you have questions about the flipped learning approach or of course, or about Edpuzzle, and I'll be happy to answer them. Following up from the flipped classroom and the flipped learning approach, this is where we can actually get creative and we can actually break things into different activities that we can run at the same time. So the next approach and the next strategy that I wanted to present would be the station rotation model. So what's the story with the station rotation model? Rather than having the whole group working on the same activity for the whole lesson, we can actually break up the learning activities with stations, and students work on different things at the same time, and then they move to the different stations. That's why the name station rotation. So for me, I was a science teacher, so I was using this quite a lot because we had different experiments running at the same time, and students would be working on different experiments, and then at some point we would rotate and then they would work on the other experiments. So this is the whole idea behind the station rotation model. And this is where we can think about how Edpuzzle can be helpful in this scenario as well. One example, so this would be an example for, once again, sort of a science lesson where you introduce fossils and you talk about fossils with your students, right? And once again, here, there's loads of possibilities, just mixing and matching and using Edpuzzle either at the beginning of the lesson as one way to introduce the content or one way to introduce the instructions for the rotation station activity, or you could also use it at one of the stations. So this is also a great advantage for Edpuzzle because once you add the questions on the videos, students can work on them on their own, and then you can focus on some of the other stations that require more of your attention. So one example here for a science lesson where you talk about fossils and dinosaurs and everything else like that, you could start the lesson with a live mode video on fossils. And once again, this is the whole idea of introducing a bit of the new content and also getting some information about how your students, how well your students understand the new content. Then you have 3 or 4 different stations. So in this example, we said that at one station, students can meet a paleontologist, right? An expert in the field of fossils, and they could meet them either, let's say you have a guest speaker in the room or on Google Meet or on Zoom or something like that. Or you could even use a video with an interview with a paleontologist, and you use that video in Edpuzzle as well. So that could be one station. The second station, you could have a virtual field trip to a museum where there are lots of fossils, like the Smithsonian Museum or any other museum or any other place where you can actually have students explore and see the fossils, or maybe some digging sites or something like that. At another station, you could have a dig for fossils activity. And this is where, of course, this would be the station that would need more input from the teacher. And given that you've used Edpuzzle for some of the other stations, that gives you some more space and time to focus on this group as a teacher and to give them more support. And then again, at another station, students could work on an article, they could read an article, summarize it, and write some conclusions, and so on and so forth. So this is just an example to give an idea of how the station rotation would work. And of course, you have students work at one station for, let's say, 10-15 minutes, then you rotate, and then you rotate again so that everybody has the chance to experience all the stations. So this is in a nutshell the model behind the station rotation. This is where you can actually also make great use of the live mode. So this would be the next demo that I want to quickly show you related to using Edpuzzle in, of course, not only in the station rotation model, but in general. You can also use Edpuzzle in live mode. So what's the whole idea with live mode? When I've assigned the task, and I will go back to my previous video, the one that we've used as an example, right? So let me jump back into Edpuzzle. This is the video I've assigned in my previous example, the water cycle video. So normally what happens now is that students open the video, they start watching the video whenever they want at their own pace, they answer the questions, and when they are done, they turn in the video. That's the regular way of using Edpuzzle. But we also have what's called the live mode, right? So what's the story with the live mode? So basically, live mode allows me as a teacher to project the video on my screen or on my projector if I'm at school, and then students join from their devices, and then they answer the questions on their devices. So this is the mode that we would use, once again, either when we are all in the same room or when we are in the same Zoom or the same Meet or the same virtual platform, because then students will not see the video on their devices, they will see it on my screen as well. So as you see, once I start the live mode, it tells me basically how many of my students have joined. So I will actually go to my student account on one of my demo accounts and I will join. So you see that on the teacher end, it does tell me that one of my students just joined, right? So as you see, the name for Cleopatra is now black, which means that she did join. And whenever all of my students are in, I can actually start the live mode. Now, in this case, of course, I will not wait for the rest of my students to join because this is just the demo account. So I will start the live mode right now. And this is what happens when you have the live mode. You have the video, you can play it on your screen as a teacher once again. Or as I said, if you do use Meet or something like that, you can, of course, project it for the students. If you're in the classroom, this will work in the same way. So the video stops. And as you see, I will have the number of my students that joined. So in this case, there's only one. And this is where I want to show you what my students see. So I will actually change my screen sharing to my student account. And this is what you would see on the student end. So the students don't see the video anymore in the Edpuzzle interface because remember, they saw it on my screen. They only see the questions and then they can choose if they will answer them. So this is what else is happening. Once a student is answering a question in live mode, they will have to wait for their peers to answer or for the teacher to move on to the next question. So now as a teacher, because I have only this student, I will actually say continue. So you'll see that the students do get their responses immediately. So that's one really easy way to stop now here. If I notice as a teacher that many of my students got the wrong answer, I would stop. I wouldn't go back to the video. I would clarify all their questions. I would make sure that they understand things, and then only we would move on. So this is the whole idea with the live mode. And once again, once the teacher starts the video again, as I said, the students get this message. So the video is playing on the projector screen or of course in the Meet. And once they reach the next question, same story. You do have the question showing up on the student screen. They can submit it. And this is the whole idea. So I will change back to the teacher view now, just so you see also how this looks like on the teacher end, right? So I do have the video, it paused, I have the question, it tells me that 1 out of 1 student answered, I can continue, and I will see the correct answer. I will see also the responses. So I have an overall view of what happens with my students, and then I can choose if I want to actually spend some time here clarifying, because of course in this case all of my students got it wrong. But once again, this is very valuable information for me, and I can get it on the spot. So this is live mode in a nutshell. And once again, this is one easy way to actually combine using videos with other activities during the lesson as well. Now, be it the flipped classroom or the station rotation or anything else like that, you can use Edpuzzle in combination with different approaches. So this is what I was showing you. So you had the teacher view and the student view. I showed you both sides, so you have an idea of how the live mode actually works. Now, just a heads up though, for the live mode, if you do plan to use live mode, keep in mind that if you assign a video through Google Classroom or through Microsoft Teams or through the Edpuzzle Classroom directly, and students start watching the video on their own, when you start the live mode, they will not be able to answer those questions again because they've already answered them before. So one tip here is, if you do plan to use the live mode, only assign the video when you actually want to use it in live mode. Because if you assign it earlier than that, students might start working on the video earlier. I'm not saying that all students will work on the video earlier unless you tell them to, but there will always be a few students that are very enthusiastic and might start working on the video before the class, right? So that's why if you do want to use live mode, try to assign the video just before you actually plan on using it. So this is the live mode. This is how it works. And these are just some ideas for using the Edpuzzle and the flipped classroom, the station rotation, and the live mode for different types of lessons, right? So think about like math, for example. You could have some students modeling and solving some problems with a different tool at each station. So you could have cubes, you could have diagrams, you could have some algorithms, you can have some simulations, and so on and so forth. Or for science, as I said, it's easy to have different experiments and different activities at different stations. Or for assessment reviews, this is even before, let's say, preparing for the final exams. You could have different stations on different topics or different units. And then it's really easy here to make good use also of the Edpuzzle originals, for example, right? So the Edpuzzle originals are videos created by the Edpuzzle team, which you can just use with your students straight away. So these are just some ideas. I will not go through all of them now. You will have access to the recording and through the slides. So if you want to actually explore some of the ideas for other lessons, you have quite a good list here as well. Now, I do invite you though to think about how you could use the station rotation with your students. And it doesn't mean that you need to have 4, 5, 6 different stations. You could even break it down into 2 stations, for example, or 3. So don't overcomplicate things. Now, the next bit that I want to quickly show you is the field trips. So the field trips, this is an idea that, especially now, when in the past 2 years, there was so much disruption to the whole teaching and learning process, and we had lockdowns, and we had distance learning, and we had hybrid learning, and so on and so forth. It was more difficult than ever to bring students to field trips, right? So this is where we can actually use virtual field trips, and we can actually have students explore the world outside of the classroom in different other ways. There are different simulations and different museums that offer virtual trips through, or virtual tours of the museum or of the gallery. And you could, of course, use those videos in Edpuzzle as well. So you have different options here. You could have guided tours for a city, for example, or you could have tutorials for virtual reality, or you could even have 360 degrees videos. So this is the part that I want to focus on, because this is something that can be very engaging for the students. So the 360 degrees videos, they are great for keeping students engaged and for just encouraging them to explore new places or to ask questions about different events in the world, and so on and so forth. Now, how can we actually find those videos? Well, in Edpuzzle, if we actually search for videos, we can actually add 360 to the video. And of course, maybe if I spell it correctly, I will have a better chance of getting the videos. And I would recommend National Geographic as a starting point simply because they already have quite a lot of videos that are suitable for classroom use. So you'll see that you'll get the 360-degree videos, and this is how you know if it's a 360-degree video, right? So we do have lots of options here in terms of many of them are related to different environments and animals and so on and so forth. But some of them are also related to like buildings or big monuments or even historical events, right? So there were some with reenactments of certain battles. So for example, the Viking battles and the expeditions on Everest and lots of other options here. So how would this work? And what's the awesome thing about the 360 videos? We can edit them in the exact same way like we can edit a regular YouTube video. So I could just go and edit it. And I could still cut the video if I want to remove the ending, let's say. So I don't want to show the ending, I could cut the video. But then I can also add my questions, of course, right? So this is once again the same idea, same story like with the regular videos. So we can just ask, have you been on Mount Everest, right? Just to have a quick example. So yes, no, and there's no, so we'll say, so same story. I do have the question. I'll finish the video. I will assign it. But this is the beauty of the 360 videos. Students can actually navigate through the video. So when they actually watch the video, they can change the angle from which they are looking at the video. So you can actually rotate the camera and you can see everything around you. And this is great for just drawing their attention to certain parts of what's happening in the video. So here we are talking about the volcano eruption, right? So imagine how students can actually go and check what's happening exactly on the top of the volcano, and they can change the angle, they can explore. You could ask them different questions at different spots and ask them to focus on a certain part of the video. And this is where it's way more engaging than just having a regular video. Now, the 360 videos are obviously a bit more limited in terms of numbers on YouTube. So you have less 360 videos than the regular videos. But the question is, how can you actually find them, right? So let's say I want to actually explore the whole idea of working on YouTube and starting from YouTube to find my actual video, right? So in YouTube, one advantage is if you start from YouTube rather than starting from Edpuzzle, is that you could search for a video. Let's say I want to take my students on a field trip to Paris, but you also have the filters for the videos. And in the filters, you can actually choose to display only 360 degrees videos. And as you see, I will find some videos which are 360 degrees. So I could have the travel guides, or I could have the Paris 360 experience. So lots of different options. Bottom line is, it is a bit easier to find the 360 videos on YouTube rather than on Edpuzzle directly. So then the question is, okay, now that I found my video on YouTube, how do I bring it in Edpuzzle? Because let's say I want to use this video for my lesson. There are two options. I can just copy the link and I can go to Edpuzzle. And if I paste the link in my Edpuzzle search bar, this will actually bring that video and I can start editing it now. This is one option. The second option is, and that would be the easier option, is to actually use the Edpuzzle extension. So if you do have the Edpuzzle extension installed on your Chrome browser or on your browser, you will have this button underneath every single YouTube video, which allows you to actually edit the video with Edpuzzle. So I can just click on edit, and once again, it will bring the video directly to to Edpuzzle, and I can start editing, and then I can start adding my questions and sharing the video with my students. So this is one neat way to actually spice things up a bit for our students. So we can actually take them outside of the classroom or outside of their homes when we talk about distance learning, and we can actually explore different parts of the world as well. So here, once again, we can also search for different other videos or different other topics, and we can filter them based on the 360 degrees as well. So once again, it depends a lot. Like this would be for history lessons, for example, where you could have various events like the fall of the Berlin Wall or different other parts of different other events in the world. Or as I said, lots of different options for just exploring with your students. And as you see, if I do start from YouTube, it's a bit easier to find the videos that I need. So this is the idea behind the field trips and the 360 degrees videos. I would encourage you once again to explore and to search some videos that might be helpful for your lessons, because you will be able to find quite a lot of videos. And as I said here, I would recommend you to start from YouTube and to filter the search and use the 360 degrees. Now, here are also some ideas for how you could use this. Of course, you can take students to visit different historical locations or events, or visit an ancient city like you've seen the Chichen Itza or the Great Wall or the pyramids or many other landmarks. For the science, the same story. You can visit paleontologists, dig sites. You can travel to different environments and different ecosystems. For art, there's lots of museums and galleries that have these types of tours. For English, you can take the students on a trip through different locations in a book, for example, so they can actually see where the action happened from that book. And for mathematics, of course, you can also get creative and use this for mathematics, where let's say you have students calculate certain angles for buildings or just work with some projections. And these are just some ideas, once again, to get the conversation going. Now, there are different ways to actually use the field trips in the classroom, and there are different ways to actually engage our students. So these are just some other examples. Besides the flipped classroom and the station rotation and the virtual field trips, you can actually combine and mix and match Edpuzzle with lots of different other approaches. And these are just some quick examples. You could have, for example, some extension activities where you give extra materials for those students that are maybe quicker to consume the content. You could create choice boards where students can choose between different tasks and different videos that they want to watch. And then that gives them more autonomy and self-direction. You could have lots of social emotional learning activities where you can even use videos to just gather some information about how your students are feeling, right? So you could have some fun videos and add some silly questions just to see how they are feeling and to build on that, see if they need support. You can, of course, have discussion groups, and the discussion groups can be linked with different videos that can be shared for those small groups. For the guided practice, this is great, where you have the video on the screen and the teacher explains something, and then students can work on their devices or on paper. Of course, we can also still use the pen with the paper, and they use the devices as just the tutorial, or they use them just for the guidance. Now, another big thing with Edpuzzle, it's really good for sub-lessons. So let's say you cannot teach your lesson for whatever reason. You're out for a conference or for a training, or you need somebody to replace you. And this is where you can actually set the whole lesson in Edpuzzle. Start from a video, add your questions, add the instructions, add the details on the video, and then students can actually just go through the content on their own. There's also the option of creating read alouds. So you could actually record yourself while you read a book. So especially if you're teaching languages, let's say, or if you want to, even for those students that might need some support, you could read aloud their assessments and record yourself while doing that on Edpuzzle, share it with them, and they could answer the questions directly in Edpuzzle as well. And then there's also the student projects, which is a different way of actually using Edpuzzle. So I'll quickly show you how the student projects work, because as I said, this is a slightly different way to use Edpuzzle. And this is something that we can do to actually sort of turn the tables. So you've seen how we created videos as teachers. With the student projects, we can ask our students to do that. So where I have here the add content, I could create a student project rather than uploading my content. And let's build on the water cycle example we had earlier, right? So I'll just say the water cycle. I will, of course, need to describe the project. I will just say, let's learn about the water cycle. And I will have the instructions, right? So step 1, find a suitable video describing the water cycle. And then step 2, of course, I would give them the instructions. I could add more instructions there. I'm keeping it short now. So step 2 would be something like add 5 questions on the video, or add your comments on the video, or add comments and tell me which parts you don't understand, right? So now I have the project created, and the projects are displayed below the videos. So this is where I have the project I've just created. I can now either edit it and change things if I need to, or I can assign it. So I will assign it to my students. So let's send it to the same class we've used earlier. I will I will post it on Google Classroom. And this is where I'll jump into the student view. So I'll actually share my student view, so you see exactly what students get when they actually work on the projects, right? So this is my student view. I'll go to my Google Classroom. I'll reload, so I have the new assignment here. This is the student project that was just released by my teacher. And this is what students would see in a student project. They don't get the video, they get the instructions. And once again, here I would give better instructions. Now I'm just using it as a quick demo. I can start my project. And at this stage, I can start from a YouTube video. In the future, Edpuzzle will also allow students to record their own videos, but now I can start from YouTube directly. So if I search for the water cycle as a student, as you see, the videos are filtered. So I actually, I cannot go and wander around YouTube. I could just use the video. And from here on, I will use it for the project. And I have the same interface like in the teacher's interface, right? So I can cut the video. I can add the voiceover. I can add the questions, right? So this is the good part about using this with the students. You're sort of twisting and you're turning the tables, and now you have students actually, you give them the possibility to add comments on the video, to add questions, to record voice messages, to play around with the video. So this is one good way for actually having students work on this. And once again, as you see, we have all of the options. We have the questions, we have the cut, we have everything. And when they are done, they can just submit it. So they can add voice notes. So this is my video about the water cycle. And just like we can edit the videos, they can do it as well. When they are done, they finish and they can turn it in. And same story for me as a teacher. Let me jump back into the teacher interface. For me as a teacher, it's really easy to see how many projects were turned in and how many I have to grade. And I can go and see my students' project. I can watch the video, of course. I can see their questions, I can see their comments, and I can actually then grade it. So this is the interface for grading, and I could give them the score. So let's say they've done well. I could also add the comment, and that's it. So once again, the student projects are a nice way to flip the tables and turn the tables around and give students the options to get creative with the videos. And this is yet another way for actually using Edpuzzle. So I would encourage you to explore that as well. And I would encourage you to think about what lessons this would work for. Now, just some final quick tips and tricks for using Edpuzzle and just making sure that you engage your students. Do use audio notes and audio responses because students react really well to hearing your voice, and it's much easier for some of them to actually record a voice message rather than type it. Also, using images is a great way to actually have students engage with the content better. So you can actually use images in your answers or in your questions. So you could have, for example, an image of mathematical function and ask questions related to that, and of course the video. You can also use QR codes for sending videos, and you can easily create QR codes using the Chrome browser as well, and you could just share it with your students. And now one thing that's really important, and this is one of the best things about the community. So you can actually collaborate, of course, with your colleagues, and you decide who's working on what videos, and then you can share them with the school. And then, of course, that will help everybody, and you will save a lot of time. Now, we do have also the Q&A session, as I said. So if you do have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Do let me know, and do come forward with the questions. Bring them, either type them in the chat or just unmute yourselves and ask the question directly. And we'll be happy to clarify any questions that you might have. Now, once again, this session was focused a lot on just presenting some strategies and some ways in which we could actually use Edpuzzle with our students, different strategies, different approaches. These are not the only options out there as well, right? So I did get a good question in the chat. Is there a collaboration feature on Edpuzzle? So this is where it depends a lot on what you mean by collaboration. So in Edpuzzle, you cannot edit the video at the same time. So it's only one person editing the video. So you will not be able to edit the video like you can in Google Docs, for example, right? Where multiple people can work on the video at the same time. But in Edpuzzle, the collaboration comes from the fact that you can share the videos with the community. So if I create a video, so all my videos are saved in my content, but they are also saved in my network or my school. And this is where, if I work with other teachers in my school, and let's say other colleagues of my department, we can collaborate in terms of, we decide who's creating what videos, and we divide the workload, we split it. And then I could take for videos, my physics teacher's colleague could take for videos, my biology teacher colleague might take for other videos. And by the end of it, we'll all have a collection of 12 videos we can use and reuse. So this is one way to collaborate with our colleagues. But once again, when it comes to the collaboration, and we think about like Google Docs or Google Drive collaboration style, that's not available. So you cannot actually, collaborate. I mean, you cannot edit the video at the same time. You cannot be edited by multiple people at the same time. But other than that, you can work separately, and you can collaborate by actually sharing the videos with your colleagues. So once again, if you have more questions, please bring them forward. In the meantime, what I do want to share with you, and we will share this also in the follow-up materials, but I would encourage you to join the Facebook group. So I think Connie mentioned it at the beginning. So I will send the link in the chat just in case. So you'll have the Facebook group, and you can actually join the group. If you have questions, you can get your answers there. And also, if you do want to have more information about Edpuzzle, and if you want to, let's say, organize a training session for your school or for your colleagues, I just sent you a link to a form, and you could request further training, and the Edpuzzle team would be happy to help out. When it comes to training, though, there's another part which is actually quite useful. And this is where we can think about different certifications that the Edpuzzle team is offering. So you have lots of trainings that you can follow at your own pace, and you can actually just go through the videos at your own pace. Once again, you can actually just talk about, you can choose what certification you would like to go for, or you would choose what your focus should be. So for example, here, just a quick overview. So I'll send the link for this as well in the chat. So you will have the link for the certification, and you have several options here. You can start with the basics like Edpuzzle level 1 and level 2. These are all the intro videos and tutorials, but then you can also dive into the more advanced ones like Edpuzzle Coach, where you actually explore different strategies for using Edpuzzle with your classroom. If you want to learn more about the flipped classroom and flipped learning, there's a whole training only on that. The same thing goes for self-paced classroom, project-based learning, gamification, for example, if you use that, the Google tools. So lots of different options here for different certifications. And this is where you could go to these ones at your own pace. And all of them are done in Edpuzzle. So you will be able to also see Edpuzzle as a student. And you can go to them, as I said, at your own pace, and you decide when you want to spend time on them. I would encourage you, though, if you do want to start with some of the certifications, level 1 and level 2 are great if you are just starting with Edpuzzle, so they go through the basics. The Edpuzzle Coach and the Flipped Classroom would be the ones that I would recommend after, just so you get the chance to explore more strategies here as well.